Welcome back to the Trust Your Gut podcast. I am Erin Trent Johnson, transformational leadership coach. And I am here with Dr. A, Antonia Aragona, doctor of Ayurvedic medicine, also my doctor. And we are here for the April edition, or no, it's March.
It's March.
I'm trying to get out of March. I'm like, I'm all right. We're good, March. We're good.
Yeah.
And was rushing into April.
Mhm.
Both of us have April birthdays. So I'm like, come on, let's get
Yes.
there. Let's go spring.
Yes.
Um, but we actually have crossed the vernal equinox and the threshold into spring in the northern hemisphere. And so it's our season. It's Aries season in tropical astrology. Um, and so what would it be in Jyotish? Is it
That'd be
still
Pisces.
Pisces? Okay. So I'm ready for the new year. I'm going to flow with the tropical, but also honor the Pisces, my Pisces moon, and honor the Jyotish guidance for now. Um, but yeah, I'd love to come into spring with you and our conversation. Um, I have just come out of Panchakarma, or I'm still in it, I think. I would love for you to kind of give that clarity, but I've come through the process of my first experience with Panchakarma. And so we're going to talk about that today. But I'd love to kick it off to you, Dr. A,
Yes.
to bring
And
us
and
in for
correction,
April.
it's still Aries. The planets and the signs correspond still. It's just that when it's the person's birthday, that's when it changes. So depending on the day they were born and time, they would be either a Pisces or Aries, depending on the time and date. But usually it's a slot, so a sign backwards. But that's a different story. So it is the spring, and this is Vasanta Ritu, which is like the spring season. It's also Kapha season where if there's kapha aggravation or kapha accumulated or kapha present to some capacity, the spring will bring that up more to the surface for people. So certain imbalances would occur, like respiratory, colds, flus, allergies, etc.
Mhm.
Um, And as we go through the clock throughout the year, as each season rotates, as each time of the day rotates throughout the day, because there are certain windows throughout the day that correspond to the doshas, which are you know um, you know biological constituents of the manifestation of elements and their combinations that create like Vata Pitta Kapha. It's sort of like a clock within a clock or Venn diagrams overlapping through concentric circle dancing of time and space. Um, and so this is the time of year that we start to lighten up a little bit. And one of the important components of this time of year is, dinacharya practices, what a daily regimen to align with the day as the sunlight increases with each day, etc., or jumps ahead a little bit with the daylight savings craziness in the US. That's a whole different story. And so understanding the relationship to nature is always, what does it look like when you wake up? What time do you wake up during that time of day? What day is it and what month? Because as we're going from March to April to May to June, you the atmosphere will change and correspond to that. And often in many traditions, people do spring cleaning of the house or the internal home of the body, the
Mhm.
internal temple. And there's a natural inclination. This has always been the case. I mean, even with animals, when we observe them coming out of the winter, like the deer, that they start like, gnawing away at bark and like shrubs and like sprouts, because it's a lymphatic cleaning for them. It starts to increase, also they're scraping away dry things or light things to like encourage like that um physiological metabolic process to kind of lighten up, release the winter coat and start shedding so that they can, so it's like lightening up. And
Mhm.
one of the profound tools in Ayurveda that we have to do the most aggressive, the most profound, the most complex, the most in-depth cleanse beyond all cleanses that ever existed from any tradition Ayurveda has gotten it. Ayurveda gets it. And there is nothing from any system, and I've studied all the systems, understanding their foundations, that does what Panchakarma does in Ayurveda. It's just not. And, Ayurveda is such a vast science. It's timeless, it's endless. Um, it applies to today as it did 8,000 years ago. It's just
Mhm.
understanding the evolution or devolution of man and the relationship to nature and watching, even though nature is suffering with like the contamination of all the elements. Ayurveda has still wisdom to offer, will always have wisdom to offer till the earth combusts and turns into star ash. And then even then, Ayurveda continues, it doesn't end. Um, and understanding Panchakarma is this profound gem. As it was explained to me once from my clinicals in India, it's non-surgical surgery because what it
Mhm.
does is that it's the expulsion of doshas, which is like morbid matter that's accumulated in the physiology over time through karmas, etc., that can be removed. And there's a great shloka that I can recite.
Please. And from what text, Dr. A? Because
This is
we
from
usually
Charaka
talk about.
Samhita. Yeah, from Charaka Samhita. Um, and it's in Sutrasan 16, Shloka. Which one is this one? There's so many lovely shlokas that grab my attention that I'm like, oh, this is great. Um, Hold on, I just lost it. Oh, 20 to 21. It's under the concept of like prevention of recurrence of disease. And so it goes, doshaha kadachit kupyanti jita langana pachanayaha jitaha samshodhanaraya tu na tesham punarubdha bhavaha doshanam cha drumanam cha mule nupathate sati roganam prasavananam cha gata nama gatir drava, which is basically saying morbid dosha is relieved by fasting and digestive drugs that may appear that get aggravated again, but those that are excavated by purification therapies do not recur. Dosha is like plants. If not uprooted completely, would recur or relapse almost certainly. And so basically what it's saying is that, you know, a basic light, simple cleanse, first of all, there's two main directions in treatment in Ayurveda: the Shodhana Chikitsa and the Shamana Chikitsa. Chikitsa is like treatment. Shamana is like palliative therapies. So if a person has like certain conditions, um, certain tools are implemented to help sort of like mitigate, um, to slow the roll of the momentum of the doshas accumulating in such a way. So we kind of like just pacify. It's a sort of palliative pacification. Shodhana is purification. So there's quite the difference
Mhm.
in what we're purifying versus just pacifying. And so the analogy that's given often is you have a tree that gets cut, and if you cut the tree at the base, there will be offshoots, and you can keep trimming the offshoots. This is palliative care. But to really remove the pathology or the deep rootedness, you have to completely remove the roots and the tree and everything completely. And then you have a hole, and then you just
Mhm.
plant something else lovely. And so that's showed in that is purification. That's removing the doshas. So palliative care is like the doshas are in excess, or just bringing it down some. But to really remove them, reset the system, there's nothing that does this. Nothing scientifically that does this like Panchakarma, because there's a whole therapeutic aspect and protocol involved in understanding how do we determine where the doshas are? What do the doshas look like? How have they manifested? What is the root cause? What do we need to start doing to put in place to get the person ready to receive this? Because not everyone is um, indicated, and or not everyone is capable, because it's Panchakarma is ideal for everyone, but it's not for everyone. Just like Ayurveda is
Mhm.
for everyone. It's a universal medical system. But it's not for everyone because some people just in their karmas and their mind and that relates, they don't have the capacity. It's not for them, and that's fine. But Ayurveda is quite the, maybe I'll say I'm a little biased, elite form of science that is not for everyone to receive.
Hmm.
And it's a blessing to receive because it comes from this consciousness that's highly, highly, highly like profound from these, scientists, from these rishis, from, the students of the rishis to understand, hey, we're living on this planet, and as time is evolving, people are getting more sick. What is some tool? And so there's this whole kind of conversation that, the students of the rishis had with the gods. Gods kind of said, hey, this is a thing that we can offer, which is called Ayurveda. Um, we also know Ayurveda is the oldest because it starts in the Rig Vedas, basically. Yeah, the system of the Rig Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Atharva Veda. And so understanding this is how old and profound this is, but yet this timeless wisdom applies to today, and they foresaw and they see through cause and effect. And we've talked about karya karana, which is like the effect that has a cause always. And it's understanding, what are the causes of diseases in a person? And it's really this dosha, which is this sort of morbidity manifestation configuration of um, elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space elements, and each person has some sort of ratio of this. And when these things go out of alignment, then they become more disease tendencies. If they stay within alignment, then they're forces of health. So the doshas are forces of health or disease. If you're within the context of health, then this is where it promotes, well, one of the main purposes of Ayurveda is the lifespan, the length. Ayurveda is science of longevity, right? And so, how do we live long so we can live our purpose and enjoy life and experience the fruits and sort of material gains and connections and just kind of freedom of just really being connected to the oneness. The less disease you have, the more capacity you have to do that.
Mm.
And it's also to say that, people get diseases because in Ayurveda, we understand that there's this karmic component that contributes to why a person gets something. It's part of their life lesson that they have to experience and understand this is what they have to transmute or integrate as part of the lesson in this lifetime for whatever reasons. And Panchakarma is such a profound science that it addresses body, mind, and spirit. It's not just a
Mhm.
basic detox. These kidney flushes and gallbladder flushes, liver flushes, all these kind of flushes. You know, what the benefits are perceived as from these, little cleanses is basically more from the person sets up their diet differently for a couple of weeks so they take a little potion at the end of the week and they kind of like target an organ and call it a day. They already had the benefits if they didn't do that. That's just because they corrected their diet, they went to sleep properly, they're eating portions, avoiding excess, stopping snacking. This is not this is not rocket science. you know, and then doing these kind of cleanses are so simplistic, but they can actually cause more harm. And in Ayurveda, it's such a strategic step-by-step process that would prepare the person. Panchakarma is not a weekend quickie kind of thing. You're set up for a couple of weeks before, and to the gravity of the situation where a person has a certain condition that's been more deeply rooted, than the preparation process, which is called the Purva Karma stage, is longer for that person to really get them ready. And then if it needs to be done right away, then of course, if there's an emergency state, we can do Panchakarma right away. Most cases aren't that emergent, so we build the person up so they can get ready. And it's usually, we try to align it with the season because we want to
Mhm.
honor the energy and the elements because this is a physics, this is a gravity, this is a whole relationship. So the five karmas, which is Panchakarma, Pancha means five, and karmas mean action. The different karmas are tailored towards the different doshas from Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And season of kapha is vomit for most people. And, we can do vomit almost any time of year, except for like deep, before it gets cold or really, really hot, hot, hot. And even then, if it's emergent, there are certain rules that can bend using proper and logic to apply to situations so that we can make it happen with least casualty. what's ideal to what's real, right? So this is where Ayurveda answers like what is ideal and what is real, what is applicable to the person, what needs to be done, can they wait? Um, if so, then what are we doing? This process of waiting, but there's no waiting in that waiting process because you're always doing something and you're always getting ready.
Always getting ready. I want to pause you for a second because I'd like to be able to uh, contextualize some of what you're saying, or I'd say ground it in my experience. And I think the way that, and as I'm hearing you speak to, like Ayurveda is a blessing to receive. Panchakarma is a blessing to receive. And all last week, I took into my prayers going through this process. Allow me to be ready to receive this blessing. Allow me to be ready to receive the blessing. And if we flash back as we think about the this period of time, can you name the give the name to the preparation process again? Preparation
It's
time.
Pura Karma.
Pura karma. You know, I believe it was probably in October or November when no, it was October because it was after I had officially received a diagnosis code. I'm going to use the language of code because I'm going to speak the language of the American or US healthcare system that I received the diagnosis code for long COVID. And what that gave me was the ability to seek some treatments like physical therapy and get it covered by my insurance. So I want to put that in here that we have been working holistically with my experience, my body's experience. We've been working together since the first time I had COVID, since right before that, actually, in the end of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But for the last 2 years, fully, I have been experiencing multiple integrated symptoms that reached a point of unlivability, if you will. As you described, the it did not feel like the life of the living. I was not enjoying living. And energy, I think, is absolutely like if I think about like I did not have any energy. I have what people could talk about as like chronic fatigue syndrome, or if you wanted to give it a Western medical diagnosis. Um, but I give this context to say that it was probably in October when we talked about preparing for Panchakarma in the spring and what would I need to do to be ready. And at first I started thinking about the cost. I was like, okay, well, let me get my paper together. Like, how am I do this? Then also the time commitment. Okay, got to get childcare. What are we going to do? How are we going to plan as a family? Um, and so there were those, that was like I went there with my thinking about preparation. But ultimately, I think what really allowed me to make this commitment was on my, my complete trust in you. And we have been working together, and also the guidance and the way that you named something that I have known in my spirit about my health for so long, but have been gaslit in almost every other space that what I was working with in my body was historical and structural, not isolated to one specific, oh, let's give you this medicine for this, and I had this medicine for that, and this vitamin, and this, and this. Um, but that there was a historical uprooting. And so you said, we're going to come off of your allergy medicine. I was like, hold up. I don't know what you're talking about, but I've been on somebody's like systemic allergy medicine, like a Zyrtec, a Claritin, or an Allegra, since I was like 13. Like this, I don't, certainly I'm not going into these seasons, into these spring seasons.
Yeah.
What we talk about. And so that was a part of the beginning of the historical excavation. Um, and that also was a call and a challenge for me to really sit with what did I truly need to be prepared for this kind of transformative healing. And yes, the financial commitment, and yes, the like family planning and all of that, but like from a spiritual soul place, are you ready to do this work?
Hmm.
and you don't play games. So I can't play games with you. And I can't play games with me. That's the core message. And so when I think about you sharing, like, not everyone is capable, not everyone is ready. This is not a moral judgment.
No.
This is not a moral judgment. This is um, a soul commitment. And to your point, there are a lot of folks who are like, nope, that's not for me. Okay, you don't want this? That's all right.
Yeah.
Because there's people who are and want that kind of soul medicine. And I also want to acknowledge that, actually I was thinking about one of my favorite books of all time is The Salt Eaters by Toni Cade Bambara. And in the opening, you find Velma, who is a Black woman, revolutionary activist, uh, coming out of the civil rights movement. And so there's this transitional period. But basically, you find Velma in the hospital and she is awakening. I'm going to do a little bit of a spoiler. Velma has tried to unalive herself. Velma is in the hospital with the doctor, and she's in the hospital with a healer, Miss Minnie. Miss Minnie says, "Are you sure, child, that you want to be well? Are you sure? Because being well is no trifling thing. It's not a game, is what I'm trying to say." And those words have guided me, carried me. The whole book is that's a whole other conversation. It absolutely is like one of literary classic. But I felt you as Miss Minnie. I'm gonna just tell you, and in the ways that the wisdom that comes from sages who call you into choosing life. And so that question of, are you sure you want to be well? Because being well is no trifling thing. And it's a commitment um, on a spiritual, holistic mind, body, spirit, as you speak to medicinal level. And my ancestors are in this with me, and my guides were in this with me. And I called them in to say, please help me. Please help me make this choice. Please guide me to choose to live. And so I just wanted to bring that my human story, my story of the choice and how that carried me through in these several months of preparation coming into last week's process.
Yeah, I mean that's very beautiful. It's very true. And this is why like Ayurveda is such a multi-dimensional you know, science. Because it is the science of life, which is everything and then some, has no parameters. And um, it's interesting because as you're saying this, it just reminds me of a word in yoga called sankalpa, which is like a resolve. And so
Mhm.
um, you know, and shraddha, which is faith. And when an individual, makes a decision from a place of like that sort of shraddha and sankalpa, you know, there's an orchestration of life's grace that surround a person to encourage the experience. And so, anytime a person's done any kind of like meditation or healing retreat or, silent retreat or, you know, yoga teacher training, if it's a really good teacher training program. Yeah, you start off with the, intention of what is the intention? What am I affirming here? Because you're aligning with something. And when you're in alignment with that, it's not just the ego aspect. It's like, I want this. It's like a much deeper, like calling, we'll say. And the universe conspires when you get to that point of clarity. And so the interesting thing about this kind of sankalpa is when we say yes, and we're like, we're going to do this, with kicking and screaming, and I don't know how I can do it, I can afford it, and the childcare and money and this and that, and the universe doesn't care about all that because the universe is like, I got you. You know, you just have to say yes. And everything else will kind of like work around this process because now it's aligned in that place. And this fortification gives that encouragement and the courage, encouraging is the imbibing of the courage to move forward in this process. And once you say yes, it happens and the universe wants to see it through. And it's going to. So it's going to make things happen in such a way that's just like, oh, this is cool. Like it works out. It always works out in the end, right? It's always just that initial beginning, like to say yes. As we can think of 1,000 reasons to say no.
Mhm.
We don't usually trust the yes in life. And so in this process, when you're working, it's like it, it's a mutual relationship because, um, we need each other in this process. But you're committed to this process with me because you're committed to you in this process. And it's like, how much of you do you want? How much do you want to regain? How much do you want to remember? How much do you want to, re-enliven yourself? And Ayurveda can offer this, to on all levels for all people, you know, and then everything else just kind of like happens. And then all of a sudden you're at the doorstep of like, good morning. Let's start the first karma of your Panchakarma, you know. And it's like time is just funny that way. And so that sankalpa and that shraddha and that affirmation of yourself that this is what you need because on a deeper level, um, this is the thing. And then this deeper calling, that subtle voice is connected consciousness, cosmic consciousness. It's not sort of like a mentally analyze configuration. That's secondary. And we could say like we drop into the gut, but we drop deeper than the gut. What's deeper than the gut is the heart.
Mm.
Because there is no gut without a heart.
Say
And
that.
and in the heart, then the heart is the compass and it has the direction. And it feels right. And you have to be able to observe like the fight and the internal struggle because everyone's ego doesn't want to, feel its annihilation. Yeah, in this process of Panchakarma, we are working through physical matter, physics, science, understanding, cause and effect, the physiology, what's it doing at any point in time, the 10,000 questions every day that seem redundant, but in Ayurveda, we don't ever let the smallest detail just escape us because it tells us something, no matter what it is. And we're
Mhm.
scientifically gathering this information to encourage that each day is going to be the optimal experience so that the end result is, you know, whatever the end result is going to be based on the initial intention that started weeks, months, years ago. I've had people come in, they're like, oh, yeah, I heard about Ayurveda. I've known about it for 30 years. It kind of came in and out of my life. It's interesting because Ayurveda is that little seed that just either blossoms or it doesn't for some people, and that just means it's not aligned for that person in this experience to undergo the reality. This is part of their karma, and like I said, it's not a moral judgment, you know, um, because Ayurveda has been around for thousands of years, and there's always been people going to Ayurveda, and there will always be people going to Ayurveda because there's something about it that is beyond any of the other systems. Any other systems are beautiful. Everyone's trying to do their best. Every system's offering, the more natural the system is, the more connected it is to the whole. And that's the ideal. It's like this whole understanding of the wholeness of life and how everything from what you see when you wake up in the morning to what you hear, to what you smell, to what you taste, to what you touch, to what's in your environment, who you interact with, the food, the thing, that. This all factors into like the wholeness of who you are and whether you have disease or health. But Panchakarma happens at seasonal junctions for sure. It's ideal. It's ideal to happen at those times. It's ideal a person should do it technically every season for the karma, you know, if it's really indicated for sure. From maintenance purposes, like a person can do the karmas. I mean, there are some age limits where a person shouldn't be younger than 12 and over 60 for some of the karmas because some of those karmas would be more um, inappropriate and cause some issues potentially. Um, but the general window is like 12 to 60. All the karmas are available. Then after 60, a couple drop off. Vamana drops off.
Hmm. I
Virichin
can
drops off.
imagine.
And Bastis go till 80. Then you can do Basti. And Basti is so powerful because even if you can't, if a person's unable to do vomit or they can't do Virechin, Basti will pretty much do the same things. It's so profound when we're doing these sort of medicated kind of enema protocols that you can still get all the doshas out, which shows, the other two doshas, the other two karmas don't do the same thing as Basti does. Basti can take care of all the doshas. The Vaman Virechin, more targeted towards kapha issues, pitta issues, they don't do anything related to Vata issues, or blood issues and things like that to that capacity. And that's
Well,
more
let's slow down
complex.
for a second because I think that's a important place to kind of zoom in that maybe if you could talk through the five karmas for
Hmm.
those folks who actually not familiar with like each of the karmas because we've talked a lot about the doshas and I feel like we haven't talked a lot about the specific karmas.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so first we'll start with the umbrella because there's a misconception of Panchakarma in the US, unfortunately. The US does this
Hmm.
kind of thing. Because I've had patients come in and they're like, "Oh, I had Panchakarma done." And as a clinician, my job is to like, "Oh, which karma did you have?" And then do you know what the protocol is? Because that's also informative to what needs to happen moving forward. And often they don't even know because sometimes they've gone to other practitioners that don't divulge those secrets kind of thing. And it's like, that's a whole different thing. And I've seen uh, uh, wrongdoings from these kind of half-cooked protocols. So the basic umbrella is that there's Purva karma, Pancha karma, and Pashat karma. So when someone thinks PK in the US, Panchakarma, they're all PK. All three are PK.
Hmm.
Often in the US, someone says, "Oh, I've had Shirodara, which is like pouring of the oil, and Abhyanga, which is oil massage, and light diet. Maybe they end with a tea or basic brew of something, like a basic." And I'm like, that's more purva karma. That's preparatory process. If you're just telling me you just had that. Purvakarma is the preparatory stage before Panchakarma to get you ready in certain ways, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months. Then you come to Panchakarma, which are the actual karmas, the five karmas. So Vaman for mostly kapha related issues, and there's a long list of like who gets Vaman, who doesn't get Vaman. Virechin,
I got vomit. Going to
yeah,
put, but I have vomit, everybody. And it is what it sounds like. It is vomit.
yeah.
Yes, just to put that
And
out there.
Bauman, then there's Varechina, which can happen like in the at the end of summer, right at the
Mhm.
junction of like fall, and that's
Which I
more.
have done Varechina, but in a different,
Yeah, you did
not at
what's
this
called a Sadhya
level.
Varechin, which is more like an immediate sort of like purge of like excess, blood, morbid material that needed to come out quicker, and it comes out through this purge. But the full version is more extensive for sure. Um, Basti, which can be done pretty much like any time of year. Um, and that's medicated enemas protocol. And then there's Martian anosmia, which is like a ears, eyes, nose, throat, upper clavicular regional purification of the senses, the mind, addresses many issues like frozen shoulder, cervical spine dysfunction, dysplasia, uh, you know, neurological disorders, sinus, allergies, things like that.
Mhm.
And then there's rectomotion, which is like bloodletting, and I know that's the scary part when everyone hears bloodletting. It's like, oh, it's it's not that complicated. It's very simple. Basically, here in the West, you go and just donate blood, and that's when the other karmas have been done adequately and effectively. But that's usually the last one that is done, unless there's like a localized issue that systemically you want to kind of get the blood drawn. You go to your doctor and get 9 vials taken out of you, and that's fine. Like those kind of things. Traditionally, there's it's called Siravyada, which is like bloodletting through that kind of orchestration, or leeches, which is done traditionally.
Hmm.
Um, so those are the five karmas, and each one's addressing different doshas or systemic things. And then Pashat karma is when Panchakarma is done, then the person has the dietary restriction, which is called samsarjana kram, and that could be anywhere from like 4 to 14 to 20 days after Panchakarma to re-regulate the system. And that's usually done mostly when there's like Vaman Varichan involved, not so much when Basti and Nasya and Rakta Moksha are done. The first two karmas are the most intense. So because of that, there has to be a simplicity of the diet for a certain number of days because your digestion did a lot of cooking during the major purging. So you can't jump into eating a cheesesteak again because then you'll probably throw up all over the place and get sick and be just horrible. So there's no such and you know if you're intelligent, which is what happens with Panchakarmas, it opens up space within the cellular intelligence. The idea of those kind of foods you're averse to. You're like, oh, I can't even
Yes.
imagine.
That's what you were just saying. And I was like, that's out. I actually had what I'm going to call a nightmare, but it was a dream where and I think it was the first night where I must have eaten, like I don't know what I ate, but it was something to that effect. Like it wasn't a cheesesteak, but it was definitely something. I think it was pizza. And I had like wine, or I had uh, too much in the sense that my body was like, "What are you doing? Like, do you know what we just did?" And I remember in the dream, I was
When
like,
was this?
"No,
When you did the
this was
purge?
this was when it did the purge," and I was just like, "No," like I was repulsed,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
repulsed,
And you shut the system
repulsed.
down.
Correct. I was like, wait, no, we cannot have that
Yeah.
coming in here after um in a way that, yeah, my body was saying, no,
Yeah.
you don't desire this.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. So then after Panchakarma, any kind of properly done purge protocol, there will be an inherent natural aversion to things that were the things that you were doing before. That, you know, even if they were nice, like your body is like, no, I don't want that. I don't need that anymore. Like there's like affirmation of clarity that the body's intelligence expresses through the aversion of it. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, and it's almost like a very releasing, relieving, freeing feeling because then you have more of a, you know, what is it? I was talking to a good friend of mine, because you know, a lot of my friends know I'm a foodie. Like, um, I eat to live, but I live to eat, and I love my
Hmm.
food, and I, you know, I get very excited talking about food, and I have a relationship to food which is like there's no specific concrete attachment. So like when I have to do certain protocols within the context of like managing my health, maintaining stuff, seasonal things, etc. I don't even think, the first couple of days I'm like, oh, I can't wait to have whatever the thing that I love to have. I'm like, and I've done enough of this to know like I'll get back to that. I can postpone it. So it's like even from simple psychology and Western psychology, if we prolong the pleasure, we develop a certain level of mental strength. And
Hmm.
then we can have appreciation for the thing we want to experience the pleasure from when we delay the gratification. This is old school. This is Psych 101. This is from
Hmm.
1990s, where it's like if we delay gratification, and we live in a society where no, we want the great thing now. And what is the cost that people are having, like, as the experience from like wanting to fix now without
Yeah.
doing the long term, like, I'll wait, I can wait, I can wait. This is okay, I can wait. You know, like the psychological trauma that we have from just this quick fix, and all,
Hmm.
to some degree, this conventional living, modern day living with the technologies, especially the way they are, and we can order from Amazon. 10 years ago, Amazon took like 2 weeks to get something. Now it takes 24 hours. And if it's promised to you the day of and you don't get it the day of, and I'm just projecting my own reality. I'm like, it was supposed to be here between 4 and 6 today. What do you mean it's coming tomorrow? Like it's like, How funny.
Hmm.
Like modems back in the day, you had to wait 10 minutes before you were able to upload anything on your computer. Now it's like
You had to
there's a 20
listen
second
to the,
delay.
that's right. What's happening with this computer?
Yeah.
I
And
need a
so it's
new one.
understanding, but and mental fragility has increased, like because people
Yeah.
want it and your quick fixes are it's not quick enough anymore. And attention span has decreased. And so Panchakarma, Ayurveda in general, not even just Panchakarma. If you can get to Panchakarma, that's amazing. It's ideal. You know, if you can have karmas done once a year, profound. It will have life changing in so many ways. But the simplicity of like, oh, I'm having these symptoms, but I don't want to give up this food. Yeah, but you're throwing yourself under the bus. What's the cost? And then you're
Yeah.
complaining. Then you're complaining you have to go to Western medicine. Then you're on 6, 8, 10 Western medicines. Then you're having side effects. Then you're just not knowing what's happening. Then you're in a category nobody knows what's happening. Then you're just confused. Then you're suffering, and you're experiencing dukkha, which is like unhappiness. And I read we want people to feel sukha, which is happiness. And so it's
Mhm.
knowing like what do we need to do? And you gotta like suck it up and start going to bed at an appropriate time and start really having a different relationship to food and listening to the body and what it really needs, not what you think you want.
Well, I'm going to pause there because that actually feels like a whole
Yes.
additional podcast conversation, which I actually might want to come back to next month in Taurus season
Note
as
this.
yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna be back here. Um, but we've really been talking about the discernment that is emerging for me, particularly around what is real hunger versus taste and desire, which is something that I have been in a reckoning with for much of my life. Um, but this commitment to an intentional relationship with time is absolutely been that also has been my prayer. And so the universe has been conspiring, my ancestors and my guides have been conspiring to support me in the journey. And it's a collective journey that I am consistently in the practice of sharing with others. How do we transform our relationships with time?
Hmm.
And, there's a lot of folks that want to wean themselves off of Amazon, right? Because Amazon has become an
Yeah,
addiction
yeah,
because of
yeah.
this idea that, like, to your point, and I'm raising my hand too, like, I'm not addicted, but I am aware that I have addictive tendencies. And
Yeah,
I am aware of what convenience gives us,
yeah.
and how we can become tethered to systems because of convenience, right? And so, this idea that it must come to me within this time period, this window, or something will fall apart. I will be out of control. This has been, I think, a big part of my awakening, my consciousness awakening, um, and in this transformative process of changing my relationship with time, of not being in such an extractive, control-oriented relationship with time, which was formed for survival, right? But to
Hmm.
be conscious and aware of it. And one of the things that I've noticed in the last couple of days since I completed this phase of Panchakarma, um, was my natural rhythms. Just reclaiming my natural rhythms. I absolutely would struggle to go to sleep. You would ask me every appointment, well, what time are you going to sleep? I'm like, well, I'm trying to get into bed at 10 and I get in there, but then I'm doing something or I'm listening to something or and then also then, well, why can't I get up? Now we reoriented. Like I know we restarted my circadian rhythms because it is unfathomable to me that I have woken up for 3 straight days between 4:45, 4:50 and 5:05 a.m. Like that's the latest I woke. And that to the point where I'm like, oh, did I wake up in the middle of the night? Do I have insomnia? And then I look at the clock, it's like, nope, you actually just woke up. Like if you slept through the night, it's time for you to get up and you're ready and you can
Yeah.
get up. I wake up and I actually wake up. That is not something I could say 6 months ago. I would wake up and the rest of my body, my brain was like, what are you doing? It is 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So I want to speak to the power of this. reorienting in our relationship with time, with urgency, but also um, with reclaiming this relationship with my natural rhythms.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, there is this reset, this realignment, and so the world is spinning around you, but you're the eye of the hurricane, and that still place, watching it, not being pulled into um the current so much. And I say so much because at some point, like the world does pull on you. Everyone has this pull because this is, this is Vata energy. So Vata will always affect people, and it's like you can slow down, you know. That slowdown is where the clarity comes. That's the point. Slowing down is where clarity comes. Speeding up
Mhm.
doesn't give clarity. It gives more
Yeah.
confusion. Slowing down gives more clarity. And I it's best to slow down through conscious efforts than through unconscious efforts, which manifests as disease that slow you down.
Hmm. Whew. This is yeah, I had to because I had to exhale on that one. Um, the disease that slows you down has been the story that I have been in
Yes. This is
for.
the chronic fatigue and
Mhm.
fibromyalgia and
Mhm.
all the things that are like that that create this, slow down,
Yeah.
you know. Like it's like, well, disease, you know, you don't make time for health, disease will make time for you. I've said this for a couple decades. It's
Yes,
like
you
I should
have.
make a t-shirt.
Hmm.
You know, and
You are
it's
highly
hard.
memeable, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's hard
but
because the world is
that
the
one
world. And
sticks.
it's like, if you're going too much, the life will show you through your body through symptoms. And I know people that want to fight this. They're like, I don't care. I'm just going to do this because I love. Okay. Then if you're having your aches and pains and you're taking, your painkillers and they're increasing, and then you're having surgery because you displaced your hip at 70. And I don't know, is that quality of life? That's not natural progression of aging in a healthy way. Senses
No,
decline, of course. Eyes have been looking at things, and now we look at things 10, 100 times faster than we did, 20 years ago. So senses will naturally decline because any overuse of anything, but wear and tear in the body, of course, the body is that age. No matter how, you slow down, it's like you have a fine piece of furniture and you keep it polished, like these gorgeous palaces in Europe that are, with artifacts and furniture that's like 900 years old, 300 years old because they were maintained. So they're still 300 years old, but they're maintained with the proper, shellacking and dusting and like, all of that stuff. The body needs that too. It will last longer if you maintain it. You just got to slow down to do it on purpose than it does on you through adverse effects.
that's right. Well,
Yes.
I
On
want to
that
thank
note,
you. On that note, we're going to transition. Tell us where we can find you, Dr. A.
yes, I am available in person in Philadelphia and online through telehealth, Zoom, all around the world. I've had patients all over different countries, and um, I'm available whenever you schedule your appointment with me at stillpointayurveda.com. And you can just look up Ayurveda Philadelphia and I will come up.
Yes. And when you get Dr. A's newsletter, you get some good recipes. I also want to say that I'm hopeful for a cooking class maybe this summer, if that's possible. We'll see.
Hmm.
But yes, I want to thank you, Dr. A, as always, and we will see you in April.
See you in
Um,
April.
enjoy this spring.
Happy spring.